everyone, and welcome to the Outside Elland Road show. I'm your host, Adam Gardner, and as ever, I'm joined by Matty Foster, my co-host, and we have the pleasure tonight of being joined by Ger Lynch, a fellow Leeds United supporter. Matty, how are you?
Really good, mate. Thank you. Despite the result of the weekend, 2
Mm,
days into the new week, and optimism will pick up as the week goes on, I am sure. And hopefully after this, I'll have a little bit more optimism going into it. But yeah, everything's good outside the football at the minute, mate. But we'll get to
what
Sunday and we'll
stage?
see.
What stage of optimism are you at the moment? What percentage are we looking at today?
We might lose 4-0 instead of 5.
Okay, against Nottingham Forest, do a second part of the league.
I'm messing. I'm
Yeah,
messing.
I
Nah,
don't know if
I'm
that's
I'm
very
I'm feeling
optimistic.
okay. I'm feeling
Yeah,
okay, mate. Now, to be fair, it's like therapy, isn't it? Coming on here and talking, so we'll get through it.
yeah, therapy. Talk about Leeds United. That's not therapy. And Ger, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm the same as Maddie. I've gone through the world is on fire on Sunday morning today. Well, yeah, there's always another game. Next week's not that far away, and by Friday I'll be like, we could get something out of this game.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, I'm outside of that again. Same as Maddie. I'm all good.
Yeah, exactly same here. So, guys, as we are here talking about Leeds United, I'm afraid, no false pretenses. Let's just get into it, I suppose. Another away defeat, 2-1 at Brighton. And Leeds now 16th in the Premier League. At home, we've been solid. 2 wins, 2 draws, 1 defeat. But away, only 1 win and a -9 goal difference. Matty, you were there Saturday. I don't want
Yeah.
to really go into minute detail of the game necessarily. I think there's some overarching things to talk about here. Inevitably, we will, because we're talking about tactics and management and player performance. But you were there, you travelled all the way down. How did you find it? What was it like in the stands? What was the reaction like after the game? What was the feeling?
In the stands, mate, it hadn't turned toxic, but there weren't many happy fans during the game. A lot of frustrated fans at the way we were playing, the fact they were playing out from the back. You could see quite clearly they were all over us. Didn't have much time on the ball. Like I say, the fans, there were a lot of unrest in that stand. Like I say, I've been in toxic stands. It definitely isn't at that stage yet. I think we only beat West Ham last week, so we've still got a long way to go, I think, in terms of people really wanting Farke out. Speaking to the fans in the bar, in the concourse, there wasn't many saying Farke out, even at half time when we were losing. At full time, there wasn't anyone really saying that either on the coach on the way back. But a lot of people similar to me thinking, with a run coming up, that's what everyone kept on saying on Saturday. Well, the run that's to come, it's not really what's happening now. People can see, Brighton away, we didn't expect much. There's been a lot of games this season where we played really well. Unlucky in a few results, so maybe we would have had 3 or 4 points more. But the general playing style, I think, has been okay this season. I think Farke's got a lot right, so it's not all bad on Farke. But I think the problem is, forecasting what's to come in the next couple of months, and that's where fans are getting a little bit nervy and a bit worried. Like I say, the result didn't surprise me, but the manner of the defeat, what left me annoyed coming out of the stadium. When you travel 500-mile round trip, spend a lot of money, you spend your full Saturday going there. I expected a bit more of a performance and a bit more effort because we've seen that on numerous occasions this season. So that's what surprised me on Saturday, mate.
Effort's an interesting word. Do you think that's fair?
Yeah, I do. I do want to travel 500 miles, mate. I do think. I think we've seen a lot more effort against the likes of Newcastle, your Bournemouth games that we didn't win. So it's not a case of the result as such. But yeah, I think a lack of effort tracking your runner into box. I think that were evident. The cutbacks in this game. You've got Ampadu not tracking his man. I think we've seen that in a couple of games recently. And I think it's just a lack of. I don't think it's a lack of quality as such. I think it's just a lack of being asked, really, mate.
Ger. So, I say I don't really want to labour the Brighton game. I think it's just the latest symptom of how we've done away from home. At home, we've been solid. Away from home, we've got 1 win, and we've only scored in the Wolves game. We scored no more goals away from home other than that game. So we built a squad in the summer to be strong, quick, but in Longstaff stack, DCLs, name 3. But then it feels like away from home, we're trying to play this patient, defensive, negative style. So the tactics aren't matching the recruitment. So what are you seeing that as well, Joe?
Yeah. I think if you look back, I mean, the Brighton game, I didn't expect to get a huge amount from it, but similar to Maddie, I expected Leeds to fight. I expected them to be physical. I expected them to be in their faces, a little bit aggressive, make it a bit difficult for them. And I think you look at the 3 goals, and outside of every single goal being a pullback, the amount of ball watching that was there. And I think if you look at the West Ham game, Ethan Ham to do ball watching and Fernandez runs around the back of him and gets a header on it. I think go back to the Arsenal game in the 2 corners, everyone's ball watching, they're not watching the men behind them. They get 2 free runs, they get 2 goals. But if you look at how Leeds set up against Everton and against Newcastle, I've been doing a bit of work on it this week and having a bit more of an in-depth look at it. Leeds goal kicks, Leeds would set up, Perry would go long, and the team would go into the opposition half and get compact. So you were playing to the strengths of your recruitment team. You were playing to the Anton Stacks, Lucas Metje, Sean Longstaff's big. You sign all these 6-foot players to play a certain style of football. And in those 2 games, it was really, really effective. I think Daniel Farke got it absolutely spot on in both of those games. And the aggression level that was there by Leeds, we just didn't let them play. Their goal kicks, we were on the edge of their penalty area. We didn't let them play out easily. They had to go long. And then if you look at the Brighton game, and other games like that as well, there's been a few games like that second half against West Ham, second half against Spurs. I think if you look at it, Leeds are trying to play out from the back. They haven't recruited for that. Lucas Perry is not got the greatest short-range passing game, but he's deadly accurate with his long-range passes. He can pick out DCL. Dominic Calvert-Lewin has been incredibly isolated in the last couple of games. Our wingers are glued to the touchline on a 4-3-3 with a 6'4" number 9 in the middle of the park. What does he do? How does he flick that ball on? Who does he lay it off to? There's no one around him because Leeds are sitting on the edge of their 18-yard line trying to play out against sides like Brighton, who are a very good high-pressing side, and we're not built to play that way. And a lot of comments this week from people have been maybe the squad's not good enough, the players aren't good enough, and they maybe not be good enough to play that specific style of football in this division. They tried it and they did it very well in the Championship, but it's a level up now. But they are good enough to be direct. They are good enough to win second balls. They are good enough to fight because they've shown it already this season that they can do that. I'm not sure why we've shifted track to go from that more direct physical style to a more possession-based football style because, again, the recruitment wasn't built for that. The recruitment was built to be competitive in the air, to be physical, to fight, to win those midfield battles. And we're playing around the back, and I think the gaps between the lines have gotten bigger and bigger as the games have gone on. So for me, that needs to be looked at, that needs to be addressed. But Leeds need to go back to playing the football that they recruited for, and the possession-based slow build-up is not what that side was built for.
No, I absolutely 100% agree. I feel like Leeds United at the moment, Premier League was always going to be a bit like this. We're on a roller coaster with our eyes closed, and we're just not sure what's to come. Loop to loops, dives, whatever it may be. And it's away from home. I'm going to try and explain as best I can. Against West Ham, first half, we did several short goal kicks, centre back to the goalkeeper, kick it along. The team is set up for that. You can go up and you can be near DCL to get to the second ball. If you pass it around the back for 10 minutes and then they press and win it, or you have to kick it along against your will, you're not set up for the long ball either. Even if DCL gets it or challenge for it, there's always a second ball there regardless. If your players aren't near him, it's not going to happen. So Matty, like Ger said, like lately, we're trying to play more football. So what's the difference? Why are we trying to play more football? How do we improve this?
I'm honest, mate, I don't know why. I don't know why we, like Ger said there, we've moved away from what's been good for us. I mean, I went to Arsenal as well early in the season, and this reminded me very much of the Arsenal game. I think we were really lucky that Brighton aren't as good as Arsenal. Otherwise, we'd have been 3-0 down at half-time if they'd have been more clinical. I honestly don't know. We spoke a little bit, is it a bit arrogant to think you can go to a Brighton and sort of go back on what's been working for you? And yeah, maybe. Honestly, as a fan, I was stood there in the stands, bewildered as to why we were playing that brand of football. Like you say, you've got DCL who has won pretty much every decent knock that's gone up to him this season and won it, and we've been getting second balls when we get close to him. So we know that works. We can be moan about his finishing and his quality in front of the goal, but bringing the ball out of the air, there's no discussion point. I don't think anyone can say that he's not good at that. So you play to your strengths, and our strength is not passing it around the back. You know, we've seen that in the 2 or 3 times we've tried it this season, and I hope I don't see it again until pre-season at least.
Well, if you're going to pass around the back and you've dropped your best centre back at passing on the ball in Strauch, it doesn't make a lot of sense. No. And I say I can't quite make sense of what we're trying to do. Is it possession for possession's sake? Is it possession to be? Is it a defensive option to keep the ball? Are we scared of our opponent scoring, going away to Brighton and going, we'll keep it at the back, and then they can't score? I can't quite make head or tail of it myself. So Ger, can you help?
I always say there's 2 ways to look at possession. There's possession to have the ball, and there's possession with purpose. So you have the ball to move your opposition around, and if you decide to go left to right, that can be fine. because the idea is that you move the defense or the unit that you're playing in front of left to right, and eventually over a couple of quick passes left and right, gaps start to form, and then you capitalize on those gaps. When you do that as slowly as we tend to do coming out from the back, the opposition just sit in and get their shape. And then the problem with that as well is that you actually can't benefit from your wide players either, because they're now they've gone as far as they can go and they're marked. So now you can't actually benefit from that with them either. So you're in a strange position where if you're going to have that kind of football and that possession-based football, you've got to move the ball quickly. The tempo is important to that. And I don't know if we're necessarily doing that right now. I think maybe there's a comfort element. I think we kind of saw a couple of games this season and went, we can live at this level. And I think we can. I genuinely think that we can play this level. But I think maybe we got a little bit too comfortable to say that we can play our old game at this level. We can go back to the way we played in the championship, and we can dominate the ball. And Daniel Farke talks about statistics quite an awful lot. And I know a lot of people don't like talking about stats because the only one that matters is the scoreline. But Daniel Farke will come out after a game and say, well, the statistics say we had 50% possession. We're great. But how much of that was between the two centre-backs, and how much of that was in your own pitch? How much of their 50% was in your half? How much of their 50% was penetrative balls or people pushing forward, So there's deeper lying data to that and more context to it. So maybe it's to try and hold on to the ball. And I think there's times in the game where you can do that, but I think you've got to either get a lead and then do it. And we've done that relatively successful. But I think this season, when Leeds have decided to sit back against sides, even the teams we've beaten like Wolves, teams score against us. West Ham, great first half, brilliant first half by Leeds, really, really strong. Second half sat back, and there was other context to that. But then you can see it, and when Leeds sit back on their edge of the 18-yard line, inevitably a goal will come at some point and Leeds will concede. But when Leeds press high and defend in the opposition's half, and I'm not saying 11 players in the half, but just, 15, 20 yards higher, opposition can't come out. They can't play their game. They end up kicking the ball along. And again, we're built for that. So when the ball does come along, we pick it up and we play it out. And it's a really good point about Pascal Struijk as well. And I think the squad rotation needs to be looked at a little bit more as well, because I think we've built over 3 years. Daniel Farke has built his squad. These are his players now, his bench, and there's horses for courses in that squad. So if you do want to play football out from the back in a certain game, well, then you start Pascal Struijk because he's your best passer. But if you don't want to do that, if you want to be defensive and have that edge of box defenders in the more, maybe the games you're going to have less possession, then you start Jacobi up, but you have to be able to change your team around for that. And I don't think there's anything wrong with rotating the side. A lot of teams do it. Even the likes of Burnley do it. They'll swap and change players out depending on what they're up against. We seem to go, well, that team did well last week, we'll start that 11 again. It's like, oh, they didn't play well this week, now we'll change it. And it's a little bit reactive in that situation. And I think the manager has responsibility in terms of how he sets the team up and maybe looking at the opposition and how they play. But I think the players have got some responsibility as well to run a little harder, tackle a bit more, watch the players that are running off the ball, mark your man, track your runner, that kind of stuff. And the basics have to be done a little bit better.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't imagine. I'd like to think Farke didn't set them up. In the first 20 minutes, we sat on the edge of our box and didn't engage them at all at any stage, even when they got to the edge of our box. When we've been our best this season, I think we sat in a mid block and engaged quite early. We've still been willing to high press, but we sat in as well. When the press is there and on, we've pressed. If not, we sat in the mid block, but we've engaged as soon as teams have got into our half. We sat right back like we did it the last few minutes against West Ham, and it cost us. Like, it's quite. Watched the Arsenal game, and we were really naive, and I think Farke was naive. I think tactically, and it's quite a damning thing to say, because naive can get you relegated if we carry on being naive. Because we've seen it again against Brighton. Now it felt very, very similar. Yeah. You were saying earlier, Matty, that the game felt very similar in terms of Brighton as the Arsenal game. You were there as well.
Yeah, very similar, mate. I mean, we just made it so easy for them. Like you say, you can't. They've got a lot more quality than we have, but you can bridge the gap of quality or to a point with hard work and getting in the face and being aggressive, like Ger said earlier. You're never going to get away from the fact that they've got better players. That's just a fact, and that goes for Brighton too. They ain't a top 4, top 6 side. No, they're not going for a title, but man for man, they're better than us. Simple as. And like I say, I felt a massive lack of effort, and I honestly think for a side, don't forget Brighton before game had won 3, drawn 3, lost 3, so they weren't setting the world alight, so they weren't in form really. No. But I think we give them probably the easiest game they'll have all season at the Amex. I really do. I think it was really easy. I think they found it really easy to progress the ball up to Minter, who was the best player on the pitch for me by a country mile. Goodmanson could not live with him, and I really rate Goodmanson, but he had him on toast for 2 of their goals. And yeah, we just made it really easy for them to get their better players into the game. You saw Jorginho as the game go on, his confidence grew and he started playing toying with us really. And yeah, that's what I didn't like. I just think, we should have bridged that gap of quality with a lot more effort and get in the faces and get an early yellow card, do stuff what's gonna put them, make them feel uneasy. And yeah, it just felt a little bit too easy for me, and that was a problem.
It felt very easy. You point at Goodmanson. I think in it's game state a lot of time, and I think we there was a lot of transitions. We lost the ball high a lot. Anytime we went forward, player with very sloppy in possession, and then as soon as these Premier League Minter's running any left back, he's going to skin most left backs. People say skin still.
The right wingers in the Premier League are probably the best players, though, aren't they? So
Yeah,
unfortunately,
well,
for Goodmanson,
absolutely.
He's have most weeks.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, absolutely. Saka, Salah, and Burmo. There's Bowen. There's plenty at Minter.
Yeah,
there's plenty of them. It's a really hard job. They're all left-footed as well, so they'll want to invert.
You'll think he's had Kudus, Bowen.
The one thing we don't have, isn't it? The right side of player with the left foot.
Oh,
we didn't get.
Yeah. We tried to do Harry Wilson, didn't we? But it didn't quite work out. But I think Harry Wilson being decent. The funny thing is, they're willing to sell him seemingly for a while there, and then he's started pretty much every game for him since.
He's out of contract at the end of the season.
Yeah. Who's the Brazilian winger for them? What's his name? I forgot his name. Kevin. He's been shocking since that game for them. He
barely played.
Against us, he come on for 10 minutes, looked like a world beater, and then he's just not looked good at all since then. I don't know what we did.
Jerry McNamee calls it Dr. Leeds. They're out of form. Don't worry, Dr. Leeds can make it better.
Yeah, exactly.
Ger, I live 10 minutes from the Spurs training ground. Dr. Tottenham gets talked about a lot.
Is it?
Yeah, Dr. Tottenham. Yeah, any poor runs, don't worry. Dr. Tottenham's in town soon. There's a lot of that.
I wouldn't mind there, Doctor.
Fans have a lot in common, to be fair. Yeah, there's a lot of that. So, Ger, away form and home form. Home, we're doing okay. What's the difference? Are we setting up differently?
I think you have to set up differently away from home, and maybe we're not. Maybe that's the issue. I mean, Daniel Farke's away record isn't great reading when you look across Gladbach, Norwich, Leeds. His away record's not fantastic. No one has an international break coming up, and we've got a game straight after. He's only won 4 games after an international break in the 3 years or 2.5 years that he's been at the club. So there's little things there that you go, maybe the preparation for those times needs to be looked at a little bit. Maybe what you've been doing historically up until this point isn't exactly what you should be doing. Maybe you need to tweak it a little bit. But I think certain games you've got to set up differently. I think you look at the abundance of players Leeds have and what they don't have. And I'm not an advocate for changing systems mid-season, but I watched Sunderland the other night change their system 3 times in one match. Yep. And I think if you look at certain games this season, what do Leeds have an abundance of? Centre-backs and strikers. What do they not have an abundance of? Wide players, creative wide players. So maybe you go into certain games and you go with 3 centre-backs, and Yacobiel plays on the left of that because he's played there before in that system. Pascal Stroud goes in the middle because he can play there. Ger Lynch plays in that system for Wales. You've got Gabby Goodmanson and Jayden Bogle who are at their best flying forward, so you get the most out of your wing-backs. And Daniel Farke gets to keep that 3-man mid-block that he likes, and maybe Joe Pirro comes in alongside a big number 9 striker, and we start to see the best of what he brings to the side. So I think there's things you can do in certain away games. I think you've got to set up to be tougher to beat. We've got to stop conceding goals the way we're conceding them. We haven't kept a clean sheet since the 30th of August. And I think we've got to be harder to beat. And I'm not naive enough to think we'll win loads of games this season. I think I've said since day one, we'll probably lose more than we will lose more than we win. But you can make it a bit more difficult, and that was something the Leeds were always very good at. Just being really hard to play against. And at the moment, I think there's a little soft underbelly there away games. And then we get, roll over and get our bellies tickled pretty early on. And then, or if we do get a goal, let's just park the bus now and see if we can hang on to this. And inevitably, we concede. So there's got to be a different setup for those games. At home, you've got Elland Road. You've got one of the most aggressive, intimidating fan bases in the entire country. And that helps. That fan base is brilliant. And same with the away game. The away fans are phenomenal. Yeah. That's huge. But away from home, there's less of you. So you've got to compensate in another way, and you've got to set up differently. And I think that's what he has to do. But it's, you can't continue to do the same things week after week after week after week and expect things to change. That's the literal definition of insanity. So, yeah, for me, I think you maybe need to have a stronger plan B. And plan B can't be bring all the strikers on and see how we get on.
I think, Joe, when you say that, you bang on money. I think Burnley really emphasised that point. I think there's some games where you look at, if you've got a fit and firing Okafor and Dan James and Nonto were maybe fit, maybe you look at a 3-5-2 and think maybe you can't play that formation because you may have to drop your wingers out, and if they're fit and firing, maybe you don't want to do that. But I think the Burnley game, when we had no wingers really available, and we were worried about the fitness of the majority, that was a game there where I think it was staring everyone in the face. We should play 3-5-2. Not that I know what I'm talking about too much, but I think that was, for the personnel available, that would have probably been the better option. The fact that he just went along with what he does usually. We lost the game. Really highlighted is, like you say, just the same old every single week, no matter who you play. And that, the top managers and the top clubs, they change depending on their opponent. So for me, that point's bang on, and that Burnley one was the one that stands out as, and it was a massive 3 points dropped against a relegation rival, which I think if we win that game away from home and you beat Wolves, you beat Burnley, you beat West Ham, 3 points side up the league, it don't feel as bad. But that result sticks out to me as probably the hardest one to take this season, even though it probably wasn't the worst performance, boys.
I think that Burnley game is the one. I think we're all feeling much better going into international break if we've gotten 3 points against Burnley. And again, there's that conversation of you've got to beat the sides down there around you. And where Leeds were, the issue against Burnley is Daniel Farke has come up against Scott Parker's Burnley 3 times and has yet to score against them. And go back to Russell Martin when he was in charge of Southampton 3 times against them, couldn't beat them. So there's patterns to this stuff as well, but you've got to do something different. Maybe there's a bit of predictability. I think me and Matty will know this. You can pretty much pick the lineup on a Thursday night and know what the team is going to be after a win, which means an opposition side with an entire team of sports analysts can go, that's going to be their team. Yep. That's how they're going to play. And that's how you're going to beat them. Get to the end line, pull it back. They won't track the runs, get bodies in the box. You look at the weekend's goals, and for 2 of them, Gomez is nowhere to be seen as they get to the end line. And as the ball's pulled back, he's in 15, 20 yards of space for the third goal to score. And then there's actually 2 chances after that where, again, he's in 15, 20 yards of space on the edge of the box, and you've got to start setting up differently, because there's, again, if we can see that and we're fans, we're not paid professionals. Sports analysts can see this a mile away.
Absolutely. But do we set up differently, as you say? We've got to, haven't we? We've got to change. But will Farke change, May?
I don't think so. Not at all, mate, to be fair. I think he's been quite, I don't want to say fortunate, but I feel like whenever we've gone on a bit of a barren spell, he's got that next result when he needed it. I remember standing there 1-0 down at Wolves thinking, oh my word, this is, and then we're coming back and win 3-1. I think the West Ham result won what he needed to win. I think he needs to win one of the next 2. The problem for Farke is it's either side of an international break, so it's a bit of a tricky one, I think. If there were no international break, or say the international break was after the Villa game, I'd be, even if we lose to Forest, I'd still be, right, well, we can beat Villa at home, and then it changes again. The fact it's either side may change the thought process at, in a boardroom level. But I don't think he'll change much for Forest away. I think it's going to be a tough game as well. Dyche will definitely be. He'll have them fired up for it. We've seen it's a tricky place for us to go anyway, so I expect very similar, Adam, for the next trip to Forest and beyond. To be honest, I just hope that the players have that fire in the belly, where regardless of what tactics Farke, if he plays a 4-3-3, same personnel, they're still good enough to go beat Forest. They're still good enough to be competitive in most games. We've seen it. It's just, have they got the fire in the belly? Do they want it more than Forest? Because we know Dyche will have them firing. So, yeah, I don't think he'll change tactics, mate. I don't think he'll change personnel as such. I actually think Aronson is probably the number 1 starter on the right wing, even when all his wingers are fit. So I even go that far to say I don't think he changes that.
Okay.
That's not my preference, by the way.
I know. It's just not. I think when you got options, you start. I mean, the thing is that in a 4-3-3, you need your wingers to have output. They've got to have goals. They've got to have assists. They've got to. Because especially if you're picking 3 DMs, I know it was saying not quite 3 DMs, they get up and down, etc. But you're picking 3 players without a lot of creativity in there. They're going to feed the ball, and there's a winger in a 4-3-3. You've got to be able to stand your fullback up and go past him occasionally. You've got to. That's got to be a threat. It can't just wait for your fullback to overlap or turn back and retain the ball the whole time. So. And also on second balls, if we're going to go forward a bit more direct, you've got to have people that want to win that second ball. You've got to have a real drive to win it. Second ball is get your body in the way. Go put your body where it might hurt. Put your left foot, whatever. Get involved. And Aronson is not that player. I don't think he quite fits the role at all in a 4-3-3. And I say it's because last week I was singing his praises. He played very well against West Ham. He played very, very well, in fact, and very, very well for him. Sorry.
It's what have you done for me lately? You're only as good as your last game.
Oh, 100%.
Should be. Yeah. Judging your previous performances. But I think he's better as a right winger, funnily enough, than he is as a 10. But
Mm.
he has moments in games. But I think he's an asset coming off the bench in matches as well because of his high energy. I think if you bring him on late in the game
Yeah,
where you
I agree.
need to chase around a bit, he can make an impact in that. But you look at the last 5 matches, we've conceded 10 goals in
Yeah.
5 games. We've won 1 in 5. The first thing we need to do is stop conceding goals and stop conceding so many of them. Like, people can point to Lucas Perry for the last 2 games, but Carl Darlow was in goal before them, and people can point to Jakobiel, but Pascal Struijk was in before them, and there's nothing has changed in that situation. So at some point it stops being the players and it starts being the system and the style. So that's the first thing that needs to be sorted, is shut the back door, and I think Daniel Farke can change it because he has
Yeah,
this season. He has done it.
yeah,
And
yeah.
as Matty rightfully says, he can dig a result out when he absolutely needs it. And I think the fact that Villa's at home after the international break is a bit more palatable than
Yeah, I
maybe
agree.
an away match after the international break, which
I
we all
agree.
probably go, but that's probably going to be defeat, isn't it?
Yeah.
Elland Road changes the dynamic a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. It's structural, absolutely. The thing is, people pick out on certain players and out of position or not one-on-one getting beaten. You put John Terry in this Leeds team at the moment, he'd look awful because that's the way. If you get left high and dry one-on-one with people against a tail or whoever it may have been, it's a struggle. You gauge all the go past whatever it may be. So it's overall, Matty. So the recruitment department and the coaching philosophy, are they in sync? Does it look in sync at the moment?
Yeah, no, maybe not. Maybe not. You know what it is? When it comes to recruitment, and I know there's a lot of people who love Farker will point the finger at everybody else bar Farker, and I think everyone's culpable to some degree. The players didn't have enough fight in their belly against Brighton. That's a fact. Farker didn't put them out in the right system and tactics for me to win that game or be competitive in that game. And ultimately, some of the players on that pitch maybe aren't good enough. There's a bit of everything, but I do think the players that have been starting games this season, the majority, your Longstaffs, your Goodmansons, even DCL, your Okafor, I think the 5 or 6 that have been a mainstay have all been good signings. So I don't think it's been a poor recruitment strategy. I think it's been poor recruitment at all, to be fair. Something Ger said in his video earlier, which I watched and really appreciated, to be fair, was the fact that we are conceding a lot of goals. And if you're going to put your whole sort of idea in the summer of who you bring in, and you're going to bring physical players in and defensive players, Farker signed off on the defence and the midfield. He hasn't once come out and said he isn't happy with that side of the half of the pitch. We know he wanted 1 or 2 more in an offensive capacity. That's fair enough. But when you're not, at the end of the day, if every game we're finishing 0-0, I can go along with that. I can go along with, well, you're keeping stuff out of the back. That's your defence. That's your midfield. But the fact we're conceding a couple of goals a game almost now, it feels like every game now we're going to have to score at least 2 or 3 to get some out of the game, and that's got to change. The eye test to the stats has thrown me a little bit this season because I think from large, proportions of the games, like I've been to 8 out of the 10 Premier League games, and like I said, and it feels like we are competing well in, maybe 7 or 8 of these games. We are defending well, yet the stats are saying we've got the 2nd or 3rd worst defence in the league because the goals are there that we're conceding. Yet in the game, these moments where I feel quite content, quite happy with how we're set up, how we're playing. And then, like you say, the goals are just going in now all of a sudden. And even at Brighton, there were moments where I felt okay. There were that last the opening 10 minutes in the second half, I felt we'd up the intensity. I felt like we were getting back into it. Then all of a sudden, goal, 5 minutes later, goal, and it's game over. It's great. That's the difference I found as a fan going to the games, the Championship to the Premier League. You can feel like you're doing okay, and within 5 minutes, you can be 2 goals down. And that quality it's so difficult as a fan to stomach because there's a lot of times you leave thinking, we did well today, but we lost again. That, how many times I've said that this season, I don't know. And the amount of times, you think you're doing well and a goal goes in off Gabby Goodmanson's head and a little bit, you're a little bit unlucky, but you make your own luck in this league, and clinicality is a thing, and we haven't been clinical enough in the moments, and that will come down to recruitment in the offensive side of things, that maybe if we'd have got that right, we'd have had more goals. But for me, defensively and midfield wise, he got what we wanted and we're still conceding. So that's my issue. Sorry for
Yeah.
waffling, boys.
No,
Great show.
waffle on. I think stats are quite. I mean, again, they can be quite damning and they can be misleading. XG's probably the best proof of that. If Haaland or Arrington are both having the same shot, it's the same XG. You know, Haaland scoring 6 of them, Aaronson, not fair to pick on him, scoring none of them though. So like XG is very misleading because and actually what it does is a good indicator to level your players more than anything else.
Yeah.
So it doesn't help you as an override if you can go, oh, in this XG league we're here, you know, because our keeper's not saving this, or we're not blocking that, or we're not shooting like this. It doesn't help us. But I think the split for me is home. We look like a different side. We play more vertically, we play more direct, and we play quicker. Now, couldn't that just be instruction? Because surely not. Well, I guess it can be, but it feels like because even after the West Ham game, he said, "Oh, I wanted more control," so we tried to control the game. Basically, that means pass around between the centre backs. But away from home, I say we're not doing any of those things, and that's a massive issue for me.
Is it what we do at home though, mate, or is it sometimes just as the natural sort of feel of the away side? They come and, you know, not really what we do, but as an away side, you tend to go sit back, soak up pressure, and try and catch on a counter. So it might be a little bit of that as well, you know, in terms of what they actually set up to do.
I also think there's something to what Adam you're saying there as well. If you look at the Newcastle game, I think it was the Newcastle game, it might have been the Everton game, but Daniel Farke was talking after the game about his midfielders bombing on forward in the 90th minute. He didn't want to see that. We stopped doing it. Maybe there's a bit more that needed. You know, maybe there is a bit more players bombing on and getting at people. And I think there's probably a bit of a, you know, Wayside comes out and Elland Road. It's loud, it's raucous. They come out, there's a little bit of an edge. Takes them a couple of minutes to feel their way into it. Gives Leeds a chance to get into their rhythm nice and quick. But Leeds have scored 77% of their total goals this season in the first half. So we can play well. We've only scored I think it's 11% between the 45th minute and the 75th minute, and then the rest of them 11% again, then between there and the end of the game. So that first half has been really important for Leeds United, and especially at home when teams have come out and been a little bit more edgy against Leeds, and then all of a sudden Leeds are bang, we're on it.
Yeah.
But then you go back to the West Ham game again, you look and go, well, why did we come out in the second half immediately and drop 10 yards? And I accept the fact there was illness in the camp and all that kind of stuff. But when you look at a little thing, and again, I go back to the goal kicks. When you look at the first half against West Ham, Leeds pressed their goal kicks. Leeds had DCL, Aronson, Okafor, high, Tanaka in behind them as well. Didn't let West Ham out. The very first kick out in the second half for West Ham, every Leeds player was in their own half and DCL was the top of the centre circle. So there was a clear decision that was made at that point to go, we're not going to do that anymore. We're going to drop off a little bit. And I genuinely believe Leeds are far better side when they're on the front foot. They're a far
100%.
better side when they press high, and they're a far better side when they move the ball quickly. I think playing direct highlights our strengths and hides our weaknesses. I think tapping out from the back elevates our weaknesses. And there's another part to it as well. If you're going direct and your defense is 15 yards higher than the edge of your penalty area, if you don't win that first ball, and you talked about second balls, you've got space and you've got time to pick up that ball or win a tackle. If you lose the ball on the edge of your 18-yard line trying to play out from the back, let's go straight away. And the Premier League is brutal. If you give anyone a half a sniff, they'll take it, especially the better sides will as well. And we still haven't played Man City, Arsenal, Liverpool. It's still to come. And in the next 4 games after Forest. So you've got to highlight your positives and hide your weaknesses. You've got to get out and be more direct. You cannot play out from the back. We're not equipped for it. We're not set up for it. You've got to stop doing that immediately. It's not working, and it won't work against the better sides.
Especially against Brighton, who have the most high turnovers in the league. So that is everything.
You make a play out from the back in that game rather than go direct, which you did in the game beforehand.
Yes, against West Ham, who don't even try to press high. Really, they don't have an organised press at all. I think the thing about playing at home and playing away, there's been lots on social media about our player ability and how good our players are, and lots of players, Biol, Perry, and lots of players have been knocked since then. I say, but I think there are options within the squad. I think there's options how we move forward, and I think that's really important because if we're just saying our squad's not good enough, then we might as well get relegated now. Because regardless if you go and spend 50 million on 3 players in January, we're still going to struggle. It's either good enough or it's not good enough, and you're not going to turn that around in a January window. You're just not. So how do May? Have you got confidence in the squad? Do you think there's enough there to survive and get better?
Yeah, I mean, I'm confident enough where we can stay up, mate. We've only got better than 3 sides. My only worry is I think there's sides below us that won't finish below us. I think West Ham and Forest will probably go on a bit of a run and finish above Leeds. I think Wolves, we're lucky and fortunate enough that we've had some established Premier League sides struggle. That's been evident. If they wouldn't have struggled, we'd probably be bottom 3 as it is. Luckily, they have. Luckily, I think Wolves are probably done, and that may be too early for some, but I would say they're probably going down, regardless of spot, and that's one of them already sealed, which is great. But I do think it'll be us, Burnley, Wolves, and another. And I were very optimistic going into the season, thinking, we've seen Sheffield United go up and finish 8th or 9th. We've seen obviously Sunderland have gone up now and had having a right good dig at it. Fair play to them. Leeds United went up under Bielsa, different circumstances, and smashed it. So I kind of hoped that Leeds maybe wouldn't be in such a relegation fight. Maybe we could be 13th, 14th and have a bit of a gap. That doesn't look to be the case. I could definitely see us keeping Farker and finish 17th and it being quite stressful. I can also see us staying up in 16th, 17th and Farker being sacked and still finishing there. I think it's just a little bit too close for comfort for me. I love the jeopardy. This, I tell you all the time, I love jeopardy. In game, I don't love jeopardy when it comes to staying up or going down. So yeah, I think we can go up. I think we can stay up with the squad. I think the squad, if it's managed correctly and plays to our strengths, I think there's been sides worse than Leeds United stay up. I hate the narrative of we've signed 2 free signings for the strikers. Well, one of them's got German caps, one of them's got England caps. If you get the best out of them, they're serviceable at this level. We're not asking them to play Champions League here. We're asking them to finish 17th. So I think we can stay up. I don't think it's as bad as people make out. But I think some people will point the finger at the quality because they like the manager so much. And I think there's a little bit of that. But I think all in all, it's going to be a tight finish. I think Wolves will probably finish bottom by quite a distance. And I think the other two and the one that stays up will be in and amongst it. I could imagine somebody going down with high 30s, to be fair, with someone maybe just nicking it and staying up in 17th. Yeah. It's just a little bit tighter than I wanted, mate. I thought we could have been a few places higher, a few more points higher. But the most optimistic fan will tell you we maybe should have 3 or 4 points more. So we are doing okay. Just need that little bit of luck to turn as well, potentially.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think the flip side of there's players getting bashed, but obviously Fark is as well. Now, I think as having a manager of promoted club, stability is key. It's really, really important. But of course, there's a lot of stability gets taken away if you're questioning the manager after every single game. If the fan base kicking off, now I'm not saying they shouldn't do that, do the field, but that's where we are, and that's Spain. We play very well at home against good sides. We've not come away with loads of points from it. We have played well. There's been lots of lights there. Ger, let's go on to Nottingham Forest. Sunday, how do you see that going?
They've had a little turnaround, a little mini turnaround under Sean Dyche. I don't think anybody's shocked or surprised with that. But again, we talk about accentuating your positives, and he'll do that. He'll go into that squad and he'll look at that squad that they've got, and they've arguably got on paper better players than Leeds, and Brighton did as well. I don't think anybody's talking about the fact that Brighton were missing 7 first-team players when we played them last weekend, and Forest are going to miss 5 when we played them this weekend. So, but they've got depth, they've got ability, and siege mentality is an important thing as well. And Sean Dyche will absolutely create. And I mean, you've already seen his press conferences. There's this us against everybody, and that's that mentality of we've got to scrap and fight and claw for absolutely everything, and we have to start doing that as well. So, I'd like to see a change. I think Daniel Farke maybe at times has been a little slow to change things, but ultimately has changed it maybe a little bit slower than he needed it, but he did do it, and there's growth there because of that. I mean, Ilan Melia being the example last year of change him. Okay, now I'll change him. Eventually it does come, and he does see it. I think there's probably an over-reliance or an over sentimentality about certain players as well. I think everybody's droppable, and they should be droppable. Everybody should be. And I think every player should know there's somebody breathing down my neck if I don't put a performance in this game. I'm gone. I'm out of the team and I won't get back in again. So I think that there needs to be seen against Nottingham Forest. I think the squad going into that game, we've got a fully fit squad. I think we've got to look at that and think every single man in that team needs to think, I have to put in a performance. Or coming out of this break, I'm not going to be in that team next week, so I've got to do that. Yeah. I want to see Leeds go back to what they did against Everton and Newcastle. First half against Spurs, first half against West Ham. I want to see us be aggressive, be a little bit intimidating to play against, be physical, not dirty, physical, and make it hard for them. And if we can get an early goal against Forest, their fans will wobble because they're, as much as we're looking at this game going, it's an important game to get points. They're looking at this game going, 3 points here brings Leeds within 3 points of us, or 2 points of us. So we have a great opportunity here to get out of here now and drag them right into the mix. So their fan base is as on edge as our fan base is, possibly even a little bit more so. True. So if you can get an early goal against them, you flip the crowd very, very quickly, and then you can start playing football. But that's been a tricky environment for Leeds as well. Jesse Marsh lost his job after the Nottingham Forest game the last time we were in the Premier League as well, after the substitutes with the blankets on their legs, that kind of game, and that that kind of mentality. Sean Dyche goes into Nottingham Forest and bans snoods and jackets from the training ground immediately. Like, be a bit tougher, lads. So that has to be it. We've got to be tough to beat. We've got to be more physical. We've got to get in their faces. And I think these players need to believe in themselves a little bit more, because I do believe that this side is good enough to stay in this league. They've shown it. They've shown it, maybe not often enough, but they have shown it this season. They can do it. I think it's a bit of a cop-out to blame just the manager or blame just the players. I think there's culpability across all of them. And there should be. You should be able to criticize the performance without wanting a manager sacked or a player dropped, but there should be culpability there. So, yeah, for me, more physical, a little bit more aggressive, be a little bit more worried about your jersey, and go and put in a shift, put in a performance. Again, we don't have the better players. So what do we have to do? We have to outwork them. And that's what Leeds have to do. And the old saying goes, hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. So you got to work hard and hope that they don't work hard.
It's great.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's like you say at Brighton, we made it very comfortable for them by trying to play the way that's comfortable for us. That's what it felt like. Don't worry about us. How do we make it uncomfortable for them? And it's the same for Forest and every other team we play against. And it's aggressive. It's on the front foot. It's putting your foot in. It's being physical, as you say. It's not dirty, but it's being always there, always in their faces. Forest are 19th in the league. They've got one win all season, and in the last 5 matches, they are bottom of the league. They've played 5, won none, drawn 1, lost 4, scored 2, conceded 10. Now, Dyche has only done 2 of those games, but still. That is 2 of those games. So the players won't be full of confidence. And that's why we've got to be really aggressive. How do you see it going, Matty?
I think the fact it's at their place. So, I mean, they beat Porto, did the 2-0 last week. Just drew 2-2 against Scum. So I do think there's something in that. I think, if I'm honest, right now, I'm worried about the result we get there, to be fair. I am massively confident going into it. I'd like maybe a couple of personnel changes. I'd like to see Stack come back in for Tanaka. I think if you get the best version of Stack, he's a better player than the best version of Tanaka, in my opinion, for this kind of game as well, where I want to see the midfield, winning balls, slide tackles, getting in the face, being physical. That, for me, that's not Tanaka. I want to see the Stack to come in and play like he did against Everton, like he did against Wolves, when he was the best player on the park at times, and I thought he was a top player, which I still do. I think he's just dipped in a little bit in performance. I think midfield, when everyone's sort of firing, I think that is one of those places, Ger, where they are questioning whether they're going to get back in the side. Stack's come out now. He's had a couple of games where he's missed. Is that tactical? Is that because of his form dipping? Is that because of a rib injury? We'll have to see. But I think Tanaka didn't do anything too impressive to sort of keep his shirt. So I think, like you say, rotation is key. And I think in this one, it leans more to Stack coming in. It's an interesting one at the back. You can't chop and change your centre half and your goalkeeper every week. So it'll be interesting to see if he sticks with Perry and be all now. I'm a massive Strout fan. But I think in this one, I don't want to see him play out from the back. So Strout doesn't come in. You keep Biol in there. Set pieces could be huge. It could be a tight game. Yeah, so I think maybe the only change I'd make is probably stacking for Tanaka. Keep everything else as it is. I'm hoping DCL's fit. You said everyone's fit, Ger. Have you heard anything on DCL?
Because he went off with a quad issue, so Metchin might play, but it's a similar profile player.
Yeah, true. I think he's a level down on DCL, but very similar style. Yeah, no, I like him too. To be fair, but yeah, I just like that one change, mate, in the lineup, and very much what Ger said, Paul. We've just got to be up for the fight because they will be up for it. I mean, Leeds United going to Forest is, like I say, we're targeting it as 3 points. Hopefully, they will certainly be doing that. Their fans, they're you're looking at us. We aren't setting the world alight. We are an easier fixture for a side playing at home currently because we're a bottom 5 side. So they will definitely be licking the lips, thinking we can get 3 points here. So we've just got to be up for that fight because they certainly will.
I feel a bit sorry for Tanaka at the moment because in my mind, anytime he's selected, it means anytime he's selected over the 6'4" physical German player, German doesn't matter, over Stack, then it means we're trying to play football the wrong way. For me, I think Farke's looking at trying to retain the ball, and Tanaka's the symptom of when he's on the select. I'm like, okay, Farke's not quite got this right, or we're thinking the wrong way here. But anyway, right, score predictions for Sunday. Let's do it. I sort of have no idea. So I mean, it's Tuesday now. As you say, none of us that optimistic yet.
I've done a predictions video for fixtures this week, and I've said Leeds doing 2-1. I don't know if I believe that right now. I don't know if I believe that right now. But
I've got to watch that video.
I'm going to say 2-1. Unless it's one of the top 4, top 6 sides, I'm probably going to predict at least a draw. But yeah, I just can't live in the world where we get beat this weekend, although I'm probably going to have to. But 2-1 Leeds. I'll stop talking.
It's always important to back yourself, Matty, isn't it? Yeah. I'll take a 1-1 draw. I'd love a 0-0 because I'd love to stop conceding goals, but I'd take a point. I would ideally love a win. 2-1 would be great, but I would minimum requirement is a point. Minimum.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think problem is if we go to a point, I think Fark starts Tanaka, we play it around the back, we try and retain the ball and stop them scoring.
I think I would, because I think Tanaka retains the ball better. I mean, Sean Longstaff in the first half last week gave the ball away an incredible amount. And I think it's
absolutely,
for me, it's Ampadu, Tanaka, Stack, those three rotating, but I don't think we've got another player like Tanaka who can actually move the ball well, retain possession of it, get us out of trouble at times. He's not the physical player, but you need to have someone in there that can actually link the play and play forward as well. So, and I'd like to see Leeds be far more unpredictable. I'd love to see Leeds start with a Willie Nanto or a Dan James and, a Meche, and all of a sudden Forest go, well, we didn't think they were going to do that. So we're off guard a little bit now.
Yeah.
But he'd probably pick the predictable lineup though.
Yeah, no, I think so. I would take a 1-0 as well now. I think Forest are in a bit of false position. They've got a lot of good players. The other week, McAtee, Bakwa and Hutchinson all didn't make their squad. And that's like £110 million worth of players.
Do you reckon Dyche has walked into that dressing room? You reckon Dyche has walked in that dressing room and gone, wow, I've got this?
Absolutely,
This is different to my normal relegation battles.
I don't want any of you. You're all stepovers. Get out.
Ashley Barnes.
You're in January. Yeah.
What's Turkey doing this weekend? Get Turkey on the phone.
True.
Right, let's finish. And I think we're all in the same boat. And I think it's the big talking point on social media at the moment is about Fark. And it seems like you'll be Fark in or Fark out. You can't be in the middle. You have to be one or the other. I am in the middle, by the way, but I'm certainly not Fark out yet. Matty, you're not Fark out yet?
No, I'm Fark in, but I'm stressing about what's to come. Yeah, so I think he needs a minimum of 3 points in the next 2 games. I don't know if you read much into the international break coming up, and if we lose to Forest, if that's the right time. It's the right time as in 2 weeks to prepare for a new manager, but I don't think losing to Forest is the right time for Leeds United, if I'm honest. But yeah, the knives will sharpen more if we lose at Forest, lads. But
it will.
Yeah,
it will.
It's not far. You can't afford.
Is Farke gets it right.
Yeah,
because sacking any manager is upheaval in a dressing room. It's not a guarantee that will work. The path of least resistance is just fix the bits that need fixing, have a little bit of a think about changing things and do that, and then we all move forward happy. Yeah, but I think as you said, you should be able, as I said, I'm right in the middle. You should be able to criticize the performance without being one or the other. There is grey area. There should be, but all the other managers below him have been fired at this stage. So from a media perspective, he's the next name on the chopping block for the headlines and the front pages, or back pages.
Absolutely, but even in a business sense, it's not like you just leave him to it or you sack him. If you're his bosses, you can sit down with Adam Under and go, what was the plan here, guys, and how are we going to make this quite sync this all together to make it work throughout the season? And they might have hopefully they're having those conversations and they find the right route together. And that's what should be happening.
Let's not have to make that decision.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
You made a point earlier, didn't you, Adam, about how is it okay to maybe criticise a Strauch and say he's not good enough, he needs to move on. Pirro's not good enough, he needs to move on. And maybe not say the same when it comes to manager, but some people can't.
Why does everyone have to always move on though? Like, why can't you just say he's out before take him out aside for a couple of weeks and put somebody else in? Why, when everyone gets dropped, that they have to be sold the following week, or the manager has to be sacked?
The amount of players I've been told need selling in January, we have no one left. Honestly, it's crazy.
But that's a conversation for January, isn't it? Like, if Leeds don't get results in the next couple of weeks, you are again looking at what sacrifices will Leeds have to make in January if they are to change this squad, because you can't just decide at Christmas, that's it, lads, we're down, give up.
Yeah.
You've got to do something at that point, But although, if we do go down, you haven't sold the bulk of your squad from the Championship, so you've got a squad to get you straight back up again. So maybe there's something in that.
And potentially a manager to get you straight back up as well if you stick with him.
Maybe. January is interesting, by the way, I think, because World Cup year, So there'll be opportunities to sort of maybe offload some players and people paying no loss, but also some players loan with obligations as well because people want to play games of football. So January, I think there'll be a lot more movement in this January than has been in other ones. But yes, right, guys, we will leave it there. So thank you, Matty, for coming on, and thank you, Ger, very much. It's good to see you. And thank you for watching, everyone. Do subscribe, but only if you like it. If you don't like it, don't tell us. And we will be back next week with the Outside Elland Road show, and Graham and Chris will be back on Thursday, I believe. So, thank you and goodbye.